Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be talking about the power of play today. Now, when I started thinking about this presentation and what I'm going to talk about during this TED Talk, I thought first I'll talk about what play is. There's a lot of theory behind play. And then I would be talking about why play is so important. Then I realized there's already a ton of information out there, which hopefully after my talk, you'll be interested enough to go and access it yourself. So I'm not going to spend too much time on what play is and why it's so important. I'm just going to summarize it very briefly and then go on to what we can do and how we can harness this power of play. So very briefly, let's just, for the purpose of this talk, agree on a few things. One, that play is very important. Okay? Not because I'm saying it, the research says it. And it's not just important, it is considered essential for a child's development. And the difference between important and essential means if you remove play from a child while they're growing up, you're hindering their development in many ways. Now what those many ways are, again, I won't go into it so I can concentrate on the rest of the talk. But please go back and do a little bit of Googling about this and see what happens to a child when we remove the action of playing from their lives. The third thing is, not only is play essential, but children have a right to play. The UN, when they talk about the rights of a child, lists the right to play as one of the rights that all children have. Now the next thing I want you all to remember as I keep talking throughout this talk is that play-based learning environments have been shown to be more effective at teaching certain things, not all things, but certain things that are taught in the classroom can be taught more effectively through play. The fifth thing I want you all to remember is, I know it's a little bit difficult, fifth thing is play-based learning environments are more effective and essential for teaching certain things which cannot be taught in the classroom. There are certain things which there's no way you can teach them in the classroom. I'll touch upon a few of these things, but again, hopefully you'll be inspired enough to go back and read about it also. So I'm going to start my talk on play with some history and geography. Just take a look at these questions. These are all questions from class 6 and 7 test papers. I haven't cherry-picked, I haven't taken out the toughest of questions. I've just taken some very simple questions which are being asked of our children during the tests. I'm quite sure there's nobody here who can answer all 5. Anyone? Anyone who can answer at least one? No one, so all have failed. Okay? Now one criticism of this slide could be that this is history and geography, obviously nobody remembers. Why don't you ask questions which are more about maths? You know, that's a subject which is applied when we grow up. So okay, let's look at some maths questions. When was the last time anyone applied or had to solve a quadratic equation to solve some problem in their lives? Anyone recently in the last 1 month? In the last year? No one. Okay, what about geometry? Anyone had to calculate the volume of a sphere or the surface area of a pyramid? For what? Studying for management? Anything, any practical reason for it other than studying for CAT? See, we learn these things in class 9 and 10, we forget about it, and then when we have to prepare for CAT, suddenly it becomes important again, and we again have to relearn the whole thing. And then immediately we forget it again. Anyone who had to apply this knowledge? What about something very simple like LCM, HCF, which at least for me was considered, not considered, it was projected to me as if it's the most important building block of maths, and if you don't know LCM, HCF, life is screwed. Okay, but where are we applying this? It's a very simple thing, but we don't really apply it. I won't go into science because some people get very scared and flustered with science, but think for yourselves, are we really applying anything, physics, chemistry, all those theories, all those formulae, all those weird things, mixing chemicals, are we doing anything? No. Even if you see biology, there's actually one chapter which is very important, very applicable for the rest of our lives. Any guesses? Human reproductive system. And most teachers skip this one chapter. When it's time for this chapter to be taught, there's full attendance, but most teachers decide to skip it. Okay? On the other hand, let's look at these things. These are the things we can learn on the play field. Now again, I'm willing to bet all of you have used at least 5 of these things today itself. And all of these things in the last week. These are all skills, they're called life skills. I haven't made up this term. These are life skills recognized by UN and WHO. the various categorizations of life skills into social, personal, cognitive. We won't go into the theory again, but this is just to illustrate how important these things are which we can learn on the playground and which we cannot learn any of these things in the classroom.